welcome to the deep dive. Today, you're joining us as we really get into it with two major players in the high-end smartphone world.
That's right. We're looking at the Apple iPhone 16 Pro Max and the Vivo X200 Pro.
Exactly. And we've got a lot to work with here. Detailed spec sheets, some really interesting user comments from Reddit, especially iPhone users trying the Vivo.
And insights from those Smart Photo Awards videos, plus a dedicated camera comparison.
Yeah, so our mission really is to cut through all the numbers and the tech talk. We want to highlight what actually makes these phones different for you.
Okay, let's do it. It's pretty clear from the start, I think, that Apple and Vivo, they have different ideas about what makes a premium phone.
Totally different philosophies, and it's fascinating how that plays out in the features, right?
Absolutely. And, in the kind of experience you get using them day to day.
So where should we start? Maybe design, durability, the first things you notice.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the iPhone 16 Pro Max, it's listed as dust-proof, water-resistant. They talk about their special damage-resistant glass.
Right, the ceramic shield, usually.
Yeah, and that IP68 rating, but they specify down to 6 meters underwater. That's quite deep.
It is. The Vivo X200 Pro also has IP68, so good dust and water protection there too. But the spec sheet we saw mentions 1.5 meters for water depth.
So a difference there. Interesting. Size-wise, they're pretty similar, aren't they?
Very close. Actually, the Vivo comes in just slightly thinner and a little bit lighter.
So for everyday sort of accidents, splashes, rain, both should be fine.
Oh, definitely. IP68 is a strong rating for both.
But maybe if you're constantly near water filming by the pool, that extra depth rating on the iPhone might give you a bit more peace of mind.
Potentially, yeah. It suggests maybe a slightly different build tolerance or sealing approach. It's subtle, but it's a difference. And that slight thinness on the Vivo maybe hints at other internal choices.
Like battery, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Next up, the display. The screen you look at all day.
Crucial part.
Both have that super smooth 120 hertz refresh rate. Scrolling feels great, And HDR10 support for better colors and contrast in videos.
Standard stuff for flagships now, really, but good standard stuff.
Right. The iPhone screen is slightly larger, 6.9 inches versus 6.78 for the Vivo. And technically, it has a slightly higher resolution and pixel density. We're talking 1320 by 2868 pixels, 460 ppi.
Compared to the Vivo's 1260 by 2800, 452 ppi. Very close.
Honestly, would you even notice that tiny difference in sharpness day to day?
Probably not. I mean, both are incredibly sharp screens. What is interesting, though, is the Vivo display has ZEISS certification.
Ah, ZEISS, known for optics, right. So that suggests color accuracy.
Exactly. It points to a focus on making sure the colors you see are true to life. If you're editing photos on your phone or you're really picky about how movies look, that certification could matter.
So while the iPhone screen might be technically a tiny bit sharper, the Vivo might win for color perfectionists.
That could be the trade-off, yeah.
Yeah.
It shows Vivo's leaning into that visual fidelity aspect, perhaps targeting creators a bit more directly with that feature.
Okay, interesting distinction. Let's move under the hood. Performance.
Right, the engine.
The spec sheet shows the Vivo X200 Pro with a, significantly faster CPU speed. And the Antutu benchmark score difference is huge.
Yeah, it's like 2.88 million for the Vivo versus just under 1.95 million for the iPhone. That's a big gap on paper for raw processing.
But then the iPhone seems to have a faster GPU clock speed. 1490 megahertz versus 1300 megahertz for the Vivo?
Correct. So the iPhone might have an edge in graphics-intensive tasks, like, say, high-end gaming. Plus, Apple includes that on-device machine learning hardware.
Right, for things like faster photo processing, Siri stuff, done right on the phone.
And then there's RAM. The Vivo model we looked at packs 16 GB.
Double the iPhone's 8 GB. Wow. Both offer 1 TB storage options, though, so space isn't really the issue here.
Yeah, plenty of storage. But that RAM difference combined with the CPU score suggests the Vivo might be theoretically better at juggling lots of heavy apps at once.
But how much does that translate to a real-world feel? Apple's always been good at optimizing iOS, right?
That's the key point. Benchmarks are one thing, but software optimization is huge. For everyday stuff browsing, social media, both are going to feel incredibly fast, I'd wager.
Yeah.
The difference might only show up if you're really pushing them, like editing 4K video directly on the phone or playing the absolute most demanding games out there.
Okay, makes sense. Now, the camera. This is often the big decider for people. And wow, they seem very different here.
Yeah, this is where the philosophies really diverge, I think.
The Vivo X200 Pro spec sheet is just eye-popping. A 200 megapixel main camera, plus a 50 MP and another 50 MP.
Compared to the iPhone's 48 MP main, plus a 48 MP and a 12 MP. So just in terms of raw megapixels, especially on that main sensor, Vivo is way ahead.
And the user comments we saw on Reddit, they seem to back that up, right? People were impressed.
Very impressed, especially with zoom detail. The macro shots apparently uses the telephoto for macro, which is smart. Avoids that weird wide-angle distortion sometimes.
Oh, it's an interesting technique. And night mode, too.
Yeah, night mode gets a lot of praise. And that YouTube camera comparison, it showed the Vivo holding onto more detail when zoomed in.
And handling bright lights better. Less lens flare.
Seems so. Likely thanks to that ZEISS-certified coating they use on the lenses. It's designed specifically to cut down reflections.
But the iPhone does have a longer optical zoom range, doesn't it? 5x versus the Vivo's 3.7x.
Correct. So for reaching out further without digital cropping, the iPhone has the advantage there. It's a different strength.
So Vivo's going for massive detail, versatility with macro, and maybe better flare control, while iPhone focuses on computational smarts and longer reach.
That seems like a fair summary. Vivo pushes the hardware boundaries with sensor size and optics, while Apple often relies heavily on its image processing pipeline, its software to get the final result, alongside excellent hardware, of course, but maybe less extreme on paper.
Okay, what about the front camera? For selfies.
Vivo has a 32-megapixel front camera. The iPhone's is 12 megapixels.
Again, big difference in numbers. But some users felt the iPhone selfies were better in some ways.
Yeah, the comments mentioned things like edge detection in portrait mode being maybe a bit cleaner on the iPhone and perhaps more natural-looking skin tone sometimes.
So it's not just about megapixels, it's how the phone processes the image.
Exactly. The software's doing a lot of heavy lifting, especially for things like portrait mode blur and skin rendering. Apple's algorithms are very mature in that area.
Right. Let's talk video, capturing motion.
Okay.
Specs say the Vivo can record at higher resolution 4320p, which is 8K, right? At 30 FPS. iPhone maxes out at 4K 2160p, but can do 60 FPS.
Correct. Higher resolution on Vivo, higher frame rate option at 4K on iPhone.
But again, the YouTube comparisons and the user comments, they lean towards the iPhone for video, mentioning better stabilization, better motion handling.
That's consistently been Apple's strength. Their video stabilization is generally considered top of the line, very smooth, very reliable.
Although the Vivo has that cool trick, shooting 4K at 120 frames per second for slow-mo.
Yeah, 4K 120fps is impressive. And apparently you can switch between the 1x and 3.7x zoom while you're recording 4K 120. That's pretty unique.
That offers some creative possibilities, definitely.
For sure. So if you want the absolute smoothest, most stable, reliable video for general use, maybe the iPhone. If you want ultra high res or high frame rate flexibility with zoom, the Vivo offers something different.
And low light, when it gets really dark.
Both seem strong, but that YouTube comparison suggested the Vivo might just edge it out in preserving fine details in really, really low light.
Probably down to those bigger sensors and the ZEISS optics helping gather more light.
That would be the logical conclusion, yeah.
Yeah.
Larger sensors, quality optics, they generally perform better when light is scarce. But again, Apple's computational night mode is also very, very good at brightening things up. It's just maybe a slightly different look in the final image.
Okay, let's switch gears. Battery life, always a big one.
Huge one.
And here, the Vivo seems to have a clear advantage on paper. 6,000 milliamp battery, that's massive.
It really is. Compared to the iPhone's 4676 milliamp, that's over, what, 25% more capacity?
Yeah, roughly. And the Reddit users, they confirmed it, right? Said the Vivo's battery life was noticeably better, lasted longer.
That feedback was pretty consistent. Better stamina, better backup, they called it.
And charging also seems like a win for Vivo. 90W wired charging, that's super fast.
Compared to 45W for the iPhone. So potentially twice as fast to charge up.
Even wireless charging is a bit faster on the Vivo 30W versus 25W.
Small difference there, but still faster.
And the Vivo comes with the charger in the box.
Which you don't get with the iPhone anymore. You have to buy that separately.
So battery and charging, it feels like Vivo made that a major focus. Much bigger battery, much faster charging, charger included.
Absolutely. That's a strong practical advantage for anyone who hates running out of juice or waiting around for their phone to charge. It reduces that battery anxiety significantly.
Definitely. Okay, what about the software experience? iOS versus Vivo's FunTouch OS or Origin OS in China?
Right, the operating system and the whole ecosystem around it.
iPhone gets those direct, timely OS updates from Apple. That's a big plus for many. And users mention the ecosystem integration, how smoothly everything Apple works together.
Yeah, that seamlessness between iPhone, Mac, iPad, Watch. It's a major selling point for Apple and keeps people locked in, frankly.
On the other side, the Vivo software, FunTouch OS, users said it offers more customization.
Yeah, that's typical of Android-based systems. More flexibility to change launchers, icon packs, really personalize the look and feel.
But some found it maybe less polished than iOS.
That comment came up. Maybe not quite as smooth or intuitive in every corner, especially for someone coming directly from iOS. Notification management was mentioned as potentially being a bit fussier on the Vivo.
So it's that classic trade-off again, isn't it? Apple's polished, integrated, but maybe more lockdown system versus Android's openness and customization, which might come with a few rough edges sometimes.
Exactly. It really depends on what you value more. Do you want things to just work seamlessly within a specific ecosystem? Or do you want the freedom to tinker and customize everything? There's no single right answer. It's personal preference.
And Vivo's update situation, is it as reliable as Apple's?
Historically, maybe not quite as fast or guaranteed for as many years as iOS updates, but most major Android brands, including Vivo, have gotten much better at committing to longer-term software support. Still, Apple generally leads on immediate availability and longevity of OS updates.
Right. Let's talk money, price, and value.
Always important.
The comparisons we saw showed different prices, obviously, and you can get refurbished iPhones, too. But that Reddit comment was funny, saying the iPhone can cost like 2 or 3 times more than the Vivo.
Yeah, there can be a significant price difference depending on the market and the specific configurations. The Vivo flagships tend to be very competitively priced against the top-tier iPhones.
And that Smartphone Awards video, they really liked the Vivo X200 Pro, called it a runner-up for Phone of the Year, praised the camera hardware, the overall quality.
They did. They saw it as a real got-it-all kind of phone.
But interestingly, the iPhone 16 Pro still won their Best Camera Award, even with Vivo's hardware.
Yeah, and the reasoning seemed to be around overall reliability, consistency, and especially video quality. So while the Vivo might win in specific scenarios like zoom detail or macro, the iPhone was seen as the more dependable all-around shooter, particularly for video.
That really shows that value isn't just about the price tag or the raw specs, is it?
Not at all. Value includes the software experience, the ecosystem, the update reliability, the resale value sometimes, and how consistently the features perform. The Vivo offers amazing hardware value potentially, but the iPhone's overall package, especially its video and ecosystem, holds a different kind of value for many users, even at a higher price.
Let's wrap up with those user opinions, people who actually use both.
Yeah, the real-world takes.
Those who switched from iPhone to the Vivo X200 Pro, they loved the camera, right? The battery life, the charging speed, those seem to be the big wins.
Consistently praised, yes. Those aspects really stood out to them.
The main sticking point, if any, seemed to be adjusting to the software, FunTouch OS.
Right. Not necessarily bad, but different from iOS, requiring some adaptation. Maybe seen as needing a bit more polish here and there compared to Apple's very refined system.
And the longtime iPhone users commenting, they acknowledged the Vivo's strengths, especially that camera hardware.
Oh yeah, they could see the appeal of the specs.
But they kept coming back to the Apple ecosystem, the smoothness of iOS, the stability. That's what kept them loyal.
It really highlights how sticky that Apple ecosystem is and how much value users place on that familiar, reliable software experience. It often outweighs impressive hardware specs from competitors for those users.
So pulling it all together, our deep dive suggests the iPhone 16 Pro Max really scores high on its ecosystem. The super user-friendly software with those guaranteed updates, fantastic video quality, and maybe more reliable selfies.
Agreed. Polished, reliable, great for video, deeply integrated.
While the Vivo X200 Pro really brings the heat with its, well, incredible camera hardware, especially for zoom detail, and macro shots, significantly better battery life, way faster charging, and often a lower price.
Exactly. It's the hardware powerhouse, particularly in camera specs and battery tech, offering maybe more bang for your buck on features, if you're okay with the Android experience and its specific flavor from Vivo.
So the choice really comes down to what you prioritize, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Seamless integration and top-tier video versus cutting-edge camera hardware and battery performance.
Which leads us to our final thought for you listening. We've seen these two very different philosophies. Apple's computational photography versus Vivo's focus on maybe more natural detail via hardware. Big differences in battery approach, totally different software ecosystems. So think about your own daily use. Which set of priorities aligns best with how you use your smartphone? Are you deeply embedded in an ecosystem? Or do you crave the best possible camera hardware or the longest battery life above all else?
And looking forward, as they both keep innovating in these distinct ways, are we heading towards a point where these specialized strengths, like an amazing zoom camera or incredible battery life, become more important to people than having everything tied neatly into one company's ecosystem?
It's definitely something to think about. What does the future flagship phone look like for you? Thanks for diving deep with us today.